Greetings, this is Stephen Uchifusa. This is Wet Lunch on the High Seas. This is my first podcast for a while. I have been traveling. I'm currently in Bogota, Colombia, and I'm here for a few months with my family. And definitely my time here has gotten me to think a lot about the legacy of the conquistadors and colonialism. And although we are very, very far away from the ocean and about 8,000 feet above sea level, the legacy of the interaction between the native population and the Spanish colonizers is around us every day. And the most moving and interesting visit I've had thus far was to the Gold Museum in downtown Bogota. And one thing that struck me about the use of this precious metal is that it didn't matter if two cultures were separated by a vast ocean and had no contact until the 1490s or the early 1500s, was that gold still had this universal appeal for people regardless of culture. This idea of it lasting forever because it cannot tarnish or corrode, and its symbolism with immortal life, and the way that the pre-Columbian civilizations used it before the Spanish arrival was primarily in denoting status of chieftains and of shamans, and also its use in burials. Important people were covered, their faces were covered, their bodies were covered in gold to help protect them in the next world. And uh, the legend of El Dorado came about because of a lake that was used by the indigenous people before the arrival of the Spanish as a place to throw gold in for offerings to the gods. So it was turned into these beautiful objects that are just stunning in their uh, complexity. One piece I saw that really struck me was was made with the lost wax process, and it was tiny. It was about maybe about 5 to 6 inches long, but it showed the most delicately created human figures, and just made with this lost wax process. Was It was just an incredible little work of art, and apparently was found by a small boy digging in the field. The problem that happened when the Spanish arrived, in addition to the arrival of disease and violence, was that the Spanish viewed gold as a means not of eternal life, but of currency. And most of the beautiful works of art, whether used for uh, uh, leadership, decoration, headdresses, or to adorn the dead, was taken, stolen, dug up, and melted down uh, into the famous Spanish pieces of eight, and then sent back to Spain in the 15 and 1600s to pay the debts of the Spanish monarchy. And because of this, most of the original pre-Columbian gold is gone. And in fact, burial sites were ransacked by the Spanish uh, for their gold. And although the museum's collection is stunning compared to what once was, it is minuscule. Most of that gold was melted down and sent to pay for wars and for other uh, building projects for the Spanish monarchy, for the Habsburgs. And several years ago, we went as a family to Seville, Spain, and we visited Seville Cathedral, which has the tomb of Christopher Columbus. And Christopher Columbus, the first thing he did when he arrived on the shores of what are today the Bahamas was he saw these native Arawaks wearing little bits of gold. And the first thing he asked was, "Where did you get those? Where did you get those?" And Christopher Columbus, when he died, he was buried in a tomb that's quite grand. It's like a baldacchino, basically, in the middle of the cathedral, and is basically encrusted with gold, almost all of it that came from the conquered native people of South America. And it just shows an interesting, on one hand, the universality of the value that people place, regardless of culture, on this precious material, but also the use of it. Uh, in the West, it was used, well, it was used pretty much everywhere, but the Spanish saw it as a source of money to pay for things. And the native populations, the Incas, and others that inhabited what modern day Colombia and Peru, they saw it as a way of communing with the gods, of trying to reach eternity, trying to connect with the ancestors. And this weekend, we went as a family to Montserrat, which is the highest peak in Bogota. You have a spectacular view of the cities. And in the early 1600s, the Spanish colonists, the governors of what was the colony of New Granada, they built a church on top of it, which must have been a tremendous uh, undertaking to haul the building materials up to the very top of this giant mountain. And today it is basically a shrine as well as a tourist attraction. And once again, regardless of people or uh, geography, in spite of the differing attitudes towards how gold was used, the universal human aspiration to connect with the dead, for seeking questions to the life after death, it still continued, whether it was with the Spanish, with the expression of the Catholic faith, which is now pretty much it is the official religion of Colombia today, and with the indigenous ancestors who are trying, or the indigenous people who are try to commune with the gods and with their ancestors through golden ritual. Uh, but the layers in this city are pretty astonishing, and this has been an incredible trip for me. It's definitely taken me out of my comfort zone. Been taking Spanish lessons for 3 weeks, and I'm doing well enough. The problem is that it's bringing back a lot of my French, and sometimes my French words are interspersed with Spanish. But I am. It's been a real privilege to be here, out of my comfort zone, far away from the sea. But thank you so much for listening. This is Wet Lunch on the High Seas with historian Stephen Ujifusa.